thinking about how you can study patterns and behavior and really connect with people and help them feel seen and work with them to persevere through challenges like figuring out what to do with your life. Like that's a big one.
After this part of the conversation, we have to reveal our typologies. So on the count of three, both of us are going to say what we are. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
ENFP.
Oh, you're also Willy Wonka.
Yes. Yes.
Look, we're Wonkas. I'm glad to see that this post is doing well because some of the most successful pieces of content that I have helped to put together have been those that you can naturally see that the person putting it together is having a good time, and that it's like there's an invitation for you to have a good time with it as well, and really just not take this too seriously. Because you can with this Myers-Briggs assessment, it gets such a bad rap in the psychological community, and at the same time, it is almost as strongly defended by the instructors and professors who are bringing it up.
Right.
Those the good ones. Because, I mean, like the statistician types of people are going to rip it to shreds because it's not reliable. And what that means is that, like, if you take it again a later time, the chances are unlikely that, like, you'll get the same result. Because either the assessment may change or because the way the assessment's constructed, it's asking you to say, like, do you have a preference for oranges or sushi when you're feeling a little snacky? And I'm just like, no, I like both of those things. Like they're pretty good. Sometimes I feel like citrus. Other times I'm into like sushi. And it should really be instead like when you're hungry enough and you're thinking about juicy citrus fruit, are you into more of a zesty kind of thing with your citrus, or are you more into kind of like more of a mellow sort of flavor? Because you're measuring the same thing. You're still measuring an orange and how it tastes.
Right.
Because this assessment is just like, no, let's compare like two different things, and we're going to ask you on the same continuum to slide the scale. And it doesn't make sense. So the way that they've set this assessment up is based on Carl Jung's work, and he's a foundational psychologist. And there's been an attempt almost throughout like the history of psychology to make measuring people in emotions and personality like way more legit. And this was one of the early attempts, and it wasn't even Carl Jung who constructed this assessment. It was the people that were connected to Carl Jung reading through his notes and like thinking about different typologies, like a small semblance of some lay down on the couch time with Carl Jung.
Absolutely, it relies on Jung's typologies.
Right. So it's like, okay, we can look at these typologies, which there's a depth of insight into studying those narrative typologies. And I encourage anyone to just jump into some of Jung's writings because there's a world of wonder and experience in what he is able to bring forward through his time and work through all of these different types in his studies of people. The other thing is that it's not valid either, which means that this test is not actually measuring what it's saying that it's supposed to measure.
Well, in the spirit of Jung's psychology and his flavor of psychoanalysis, it's impressionistic. It's meant to be creative and impressionistic and tap into the unconscious. It really wasn't about precise measure from the start, so there really shouldn't be a claim to that in a way, but it's really about opening up these archetypes for people to feel whether they connect with them or
not. Absolutely. And in a way, it's like it's almost like a Rorschach in that way.
Yes.
Yet people really do feel like they identify almost as much with their 4-letter codes as some do with astrology. You're like, oh no, I'm a Capricorn, or like some people are like really into Enneagrams. You heard those too.
Yes.
So like they really feel like the identity, and sometimes it can get like spiritual with people. So it's always have to kind of like navigate through this and encourage people just to set yourself aside for a second and think about, like what resonates with you about each of these typologies. And it just as you mentioned, Suzie, is that there are these stories and reflections that are built out in 16 different directions that are kind of, there's a lot of overlap. And so you see like some of the authors like writing, there's almost like 150-page reports about one of these typologies that is based on an assessment that no, it's not reliable, no, it's not valid. And yet people still feel seen because it's written by another person who has an idea of who this person is. So it's like it's a shared 1/16th of humanity that you might see some overlap or a relationship to. And we encourage all of our clients to think carefully about what are the pieces in this character, whether that's, Agent Scully or Taylor Swift or Gordon Ramsay or Beyonce or like any of these characters that we've aligned to the descriptions of them. Like, who do you connect most with and why? And usually there's something there that's connected to a deeper story about you. And that's where the real clues are for your preferences and what's going to motivate you. And maybe there's something really missing, and that there's really something about a campaigner or an advocate that you really appreciate. And there's one last thing I just want to mention here is that in my study of people, just a really quick story, as I was taking this practice over and about to forge an agreement with Vicky for how we'd be moving forward, she was really interested in what my type was as just a sense for how things work. Because she's worked with thousands of people using this assessment, and she has her own ideas of how the patterns work. And one of the things that she realized and saw were that those people that had a strong connection of NF together, like a high intuitive sense and a high feeling sense, so that they can naturally read people well and are really well attuned to sensing feelings and others' feelings, are really great in the helping professions. So like coaches, guides, and she was really heartened to hear that I was an NF, and so like that was one of these pieces that I look for sometimes as well, just because I've worked with her for such a long time. When I'm working with clients, it's like, oh, are you an NF? Like, that's kind of interesting. Let's run these sort of ideas by you too, about like thinking about how you can study patterns and behavior and really connect with people and help them feel seen and work with them to persevere through challenges like figuring out what to do with your life. Like that's a big one.
After this part of the conversation, we have to reveal our typologies. So on the count of three, both of us are going to say what we are. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
ENFP.
Oh, you're also Willy Wonka.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Look, we're Wonkas.